The final for Euro 2024 is finally here, and in today's video I'm going to reveal the best transfer targets for the final match day to help you get the best rank and maybe top your mini league. Now, before we jump into some transfer targets for the final match day, I just want to say that if you are new to the channel, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. We've got a new goal for the channel. It is to hit 6,000 subscribers by the start of the new Premier League season. Obviously, FPL is kind of, being steadily launched throughout the next few days with price rises and, of course, the game being released. So if you are into FPL, be sure to obviously subscribe to the channel because there is plenty of content coming your way this summer. So let's start off with, of course, 11-5's data for the final. Obviously, we've been using 11-5 throughout this tournament. Go and check out their amazing work that they've been doing across the tournament. Obviously, they do Premier League stuff as well, so going to be a really useful asset. Obviously, I'll be covering some of their stuff in my videos, but obviously there is paid membership, and of course, just go and show them support on Twitter and stuff like that. Massively helps them. So like I said, go and check them out. Link to that in the description. So as we can see, it's favouring Spain. That's what the data is suggesting. It's favouring Spain. I know Opta have obviously switched as well to Spain being the favourites for this tournament. On paper, they probably have been one of the best teams across the entire tournament. Let's not get away from that fact. But with the data, obviously, we're trying to take our bias away. Obviously, my bias being an English fan, we're going to have a lot of English subscribers as well, given their biased opinion. But looking at the data, they expect Spain to score more goals, a higher probability of a clean sheet, and a higher probability of winning this game. So for me, if you are looking to obviously chase, I think probably you're going to have to edge it with Spain a little bit more, to be honest, with your transfers, especially those from the attacking standpoint as well. Clean sheet doesn't really seem too much in it, to be honest. 1% is very marginal. The goals are still marginal, but obviously a lot more higher, and I feel Spain do have better attacking players than England. We've seen it throughout the course of this tournament. Spain have created more XG. They've got more players with better expected goal involvement across the tournament as well, and more goals in general, as we'll come on to see. So I think from an attacking standpoint, Spain definitely have the better pick of the players. That is taking my England bias away from that and using the data that, has been kind of throughout the tournament and projected for the finals as well. But it is very marginal advantage to Spain for this final. And, sometimes in these finals, it is just players' magic moments like we saw with Ollie Watkins today. Sometimes we have to take away the data, and sometimes in these big games, it is just about the vibes. In fact, purely just taking the opportunities when they come. I doubt many people went for Ollie Watkins and Cole Palmer this week, but those were the two players that had the magic moments. Obviously, Ollie Watkins as well picking up the Man of the Match award. I imagine not too many people kind of fought through that one, but that is the data from 11-5. Obviously, throughout the course of this week, building up to the final, we're going to have more data from them and from Rob T FPL, so keep tuned to the channel and let's dive in. Let's take a look at some players. Alright, let's start off with arguably, the bookmakers' favourites. It is going to be Spain. We're going to talk through their best assets I would be looking to target. So let's start off with Yamal first. The semi-final was obviously his big breakout moment, obviously getting himself the youngest goal scorer in Euros history. I think it was international football history, if I'm not wrong as well. Someone will correct me in the comments if I am wrong. But realistically, there's only going to be two forward options for me going into this final game week. It is going to be Yamal and it is going to be Harry Kane. So I feel with that, you are covering off both sides, especially with the forwards. As you can see, his data has been pretty decent across this entire tournament. Obviously scored that wonder goal, but even before that, he was creating plenty of opportunities for this Spanish side. So definitely a player I am very much considering. He is probably top of my shopping list for going at this final as well. With the limited options we have up front, like I said, it is probably going to be Kane and Yamal in a lot of people's teams as well. Does offer, I probably would say, the best attacking option for Spain in my personal opinion. Probably Dani Olmo is second to that, but for me, Yamal, the data is definitely there. I imagine the projected data when we get that from Rob T FPL and from 11-5 is also going to suggest that Yamal is one of the favourites to go and do extremely well this week. But for me, he is one of the top transfer targets from this Spanish side. Moving into the midfield, I feel we've got quite a few options in this position. We're very much blessed. Obviously for me, Dani Olmo is the top pick. He's really come to light in the kind of of knockout stages of this tournament. 5 goals plus assists for him so far. As you can see, the data as well is pretty decent, and the lad has just kind of stepped up gears since Pedri's injury, picking up a goal in both of their quarterfinal and semi-final games. So I feel he is the standout pick and probably the go-to midfielder to go for. Obviously, then we have a plethora of other high-quality Spanish midfielders as well. I think realistically, maybe if you're on the wild card or limitless, you're probably maybe only looking at maybe like Bellingham, Rice, or one of like Saka in there as well. The rest for me is probably going to be Spanish midfield of Olmo, Ruiz, and then we're probably looking at between Williams and Rodri. Now, the reason I've not included Rodri on this list is he only managed to pick up 1 ball recovery in the other semi-final, which is not what we want to see from those kind of defensive kind of midfield players, when as well we've got such high quality players from this Spanish side that also create opportunities and still get okay ball recoveries, like we're seeing with Ruiz here. For me, he edges it over Rodri going into this final. Obviously, he's got that attacking threat, playing a lot of a deeper role, but he is picking up more ball recoveries across the past 2 games than Rodri as well. So for me, Ruiz is slightly edging it over him. Obviously, Williams as well is a very, very decent option, but he didn't look quite as good in the semi-final, but he is still very much a decent option going into this final match day. Moving on to defenders, the two standouts are Cucurella. He's top for ball recoveries for Spain, and then Dani Carvajal as well. I feel he was a massive miss in the semi-finals. Jesus Navas is just not at the same level that he used to be, is he? Especially at right back. There was quite a few times where he looked very, very exposed. So I do expect Carvajal to slot straight back in. I think Laporte as well is a very, very decent option. And with Spain having the slightly better odds going in terms of clean sheet, 25 to 24, so very, very marginal. But obviously, if you are on a wild card or looking for a goalkeeper transfer, I would say that Unai Simon is probably going to slightly edge it, just down to the fact that they have that 1% better chance of a clean sheet. But it's going to be very, very tight, very, very close. But I think, you know, Cucurella, Carvajal, Laporte, that is probably the 3 defenders out of all of those. Cucurella's the best for ball recovery numbers, and as you can see, puts up okay attacking data. But for me, for Spain, the best picks are Yamal, Olmo, and then probably one of the defenders. Everybody else is probably a little bit more tangible and definitely could be replaced with an England midfielder. Speaking of those, let's move over to the England side. Obviously, again, I've outlined 5 players from England. Obviously, there are some players that are excluded that I still think are decent options, so we'll talk through some of those as well. Harry Kane, like I said, is probably going to be a front 2 of him and Yamal. He's currently on for the Golden Boot. Like, all he needs to do is score in this final game and he has wrapped up the Golden Boot. All the other contenders are out of the tournament. Obviously, if someone from Spain absolutely slaps it, like Dani Olmo, if he grabs himself another 2 goals, then maybe we could be back, you know, in contention with him. But Kane will be looking for that Golden Boot. I expect him to start for this England side as well. Picked up a little bit in terms of the semi-finals. I think that's probably his best performance in an England shirt at the Euros. Obviously scored the penalty, won the penalty as well, so picked up an extra 2 points for that. And as you can see, has the best attacking data out of any of the other England attackers that I've included on this list and excluded on this list as well. So, you know, obviously Ollie Watkins scored the goal, but I still would be expecting Harry Kane to start the next game for England up front. And like I said, limited forward options is probably him and Yamal that will be your front 2 going into this this final match day. Moving on to our midfield. Now, these are obviously the 3 midfielders I outlined when we were talking about the Spanish ones that you potentially would be looking at if you were going for the full 5 stack in midfield. Saka, I think, has been absolutely exceptional. The data hasn't quite, you know, been there, but when you watch him from an eye test perspective, he always seems to be involved for England and always seems to, you know, get himself in the right positions. Obviously scored, but it was ruled out for offside, so that expected data also doesn't count for it. But I'm definitely looking at Bukayo Saka as an option. Sees a lot of the game out as well because of his kind of ability to play on the left or the right or further field. I feel he's a valuable asset that Gareth Southgate definitely likes as well. So I'm a big fan of Bukayo Saka. Declan Rice was a player that I bought into my team this week and I wasn't expecting overly too much from him, but it was the ball recovery numbers that kind of just appetized me towards him, and he did very well, picked up 6 ball recoveries in that semi-final game, so did come away with 4 points. Nothing exceptional, but especially in these tighter, closer games, the semi-finals and the final, where there's probably not going to be too many goal scorers, we are probably looking, especially for people that have decent ranks or just trying to maintain rank, are going to be looking for these edgy outliners that, you know, are super low owned, like Declan Rice is around 10% owned, that are just going to pick up decent ball recovery numbers, and that is what Declan Rice will offer for you and your side as well. I wouldn't be expecting anything marvellous, but maybe in a tight and kind of cagey affair, Declan Rice and Rodri could be the 2 players that could potentially edge it out, maybe pick up a man of the match award as well if they get some decent ball recovery numbers as well. But just a little bit of a different avenue in midfield. Obviously, one player that I have excluded, well, 2 players actually, we'll talk about those. Phil Foden, I think looked a lot better at more centrally. Second half definitely drifted out of the game. Cole Palmer came off the bench, picked up an assist. Every time he's come off the bench, has looked absolutely exceptional. I feel he's super unlucky of not to have started a game. I imagine Gareth is probably going to stick with the same lineup. Maybe Kieran Trippier comes out for Shaw is probably going to be realistically the only change that Gareth's going to make. That's kind of his managerial style. He doesn't make too many changes. Maybe Cole Palmer starts ahead of Foden, but I just can't quite see it. So that's why I've not included Cole Palmer. But I think if you are chasing rank, he could definitely be a player that could come off the bench if England need him. And you know what? Could, you know, very similar to what he did tonight, explode, provide the equality and the assist that he did as well. Jude Bellingham just seems like a player who's not going to come off for this England side, so he isn't ever present. Obviously picked up that overhead goal that, you know, just sent the country into euphoria as well. Ball recovery numbers are pretty pish. Attacking numbers as well are pretty pish for me as well. But he is one of those players that seems to just be owned by absolutely everybody. So if he does pop off, he could be one of those that absolutely decimates your rank. So maybe something to potentially consider with that one. From a defensive standpoint, obviously Jordan Pickford, great shout in goal. Obviously we've got Kyle Walker and John Stones as well, very, very decent options. Luke Shaw could be potentially worth a little bit of a gamble if we get maybe early, well, we're going to get the team news, so if Luke Shaw's starting, he could potentially be one of those players that could be a little bit of an anomaly. Not many people are going to own him. Had a few chances down the left-hand side tonight as well. Put in an okay-ish ball, if I remember off the top of my head. So obviously, if he's starting, he could be one that could be, for people chasing rank, or maybe just a little bit of a decent differential, potentially consider going for as well. But Mark Gahey obviously is going to be the standout pick for England. As you can see, it is all about those ball recoveries with our man Mark. 40 ball recoveries for him. He's been absolutely exceptional. Probably England's best player across the entire tournament as well. Wasn't like a game where he had to do anything special today, so I definitely think other players stood out. But again, was still there, very consistent with his ball recoveries as well. So he's the standout defender. But I think Luke Shaw, if we're obviously going to see the lineup as well, he could be a very, very nice differential option. Those were my transfer targets going into the final match day. Let me know what you think of them down in the comment section below. If you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in the comments, as we all try to answer as many as we possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in the final match day.